Welcome to Break the Rules with Dr. Lauren Lax, a podcast dedicated to quieting the noise in the health, food, and fitness world. Dr. Lauren is a leading nutritionist, therapist, and functional medicine practitioner on a mission to help others thrive in their own lives, mind, body, and soul. And now, your host, Dr. Lauren Lax.
Well, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Break the Rules podcast, where we talk about quieting the noise in the health, food, and fitness world. And today we're talking all about the number one nutrient, which is the power of breath and oxygen, with Jen Broyles, who is a holistic health coach and SOMA Breathwork instructor and essential oil specialist. And she helps individuals restore and optimize their health by calming the nervous system and addressing the root cause of their symptoms, which is something I think we can all use a little bit of right now. And something that I do quite often talk about in my practice with my clients, as well as in my own life. I've experienced the power of the pause with the power of breath and how that can be one of the biggest tools in your tool belt that you may not be tapping into right now when it comes to hitting ceilings in your health and optimizing your health. And Jen, thanks so much for coming on. And if you could first start off with giving us a little bit of background about who you are and then what got you doing this work you're doing in the world.
Yeah, Lauren, thanks for having me. And yes, I will try to keep a long story short, but like many holistic health practitioners, I got into the world of natural health through trying to resolve my own health challenges at the time. And, I, in my 20s, started experiencing some digestive issues, and it kind of started after a round of some heavy duty antibiotics in college. And at that time, most people, it was not mainstream knowledge, anything about the microbiome or the harmful effects of antibiotics or anything like that. So I never even made the connection for a while that is what it was. And I never did anything about it either. I just thought eventually it would go away. And then, fast forward, years later, and it's something I was still dealing with. And, those, initial digestive issues, what we can call IBS, just started cultivating into more systemic symptoms of anxiety and, skin issues and hormone imbalances. And at the time, I was very conventionally minded, in the fact that, you go to a doctor, you get a medication to treat the condition, and that's just the way things are done. And so, I found myself seeing all these different doctors for these different symptoms, not making the connection that, oh, it's all linked together, and, unfortunately, specialists specialize in certain parts of the body, not really treating it as a whole organism. Right. And so I was on a bunch of different medications, everything from birth control to antidepressants to just, all stuff for my gut that wasn't really helping. Had done all these different tests and nothing really came back showing anything diagnostic. And I just felt like this can't be it, right? And at the time, I was working in pharmaceutical sales. And so, I believed in that way of doing things. It's all I knew. I didn't know the world of natural health. I didn't know functional medicine. I didn't know any of that. But I did know that this could not be the answer because there was not a solution, and so that's when I started really diving into my own reading and research, starting with nutrition, because what I knew about nutrition, or what I thought I knew about nutrition, was not right. It was not true, and so I just really had to reprogram my beliefs through knowledge and education around what real nutrition was. And through that, I just started to, this passion started to emerge, just couldn't stop reading these and learning all this new information. I was like, this has clearly been available all the time. I just wasn't seeing it, or I wasn't exposed to it. And so I, at that time, decided to go back to school and study integrative nutrition and become a health coach. And I worked with, functional medicine practitioners through a lot of that as well, and got training and experience in that world. and that evolved into, bringing essential oils into my practice because I found them to be so supportive for me personally, and just learning the science behind, different forms of plant therapies and essential oils. And then more recently, breath work, because for me, and I feel like this is the case for so many people, the big piece that often is not addressed. And, in my experience, it wasn't even really addressed in functional medicine other than being told about adrenal fatigue, but the stress piece was not addressed. And the stress, I was eating the most rigorously clean, perfect diet, taking all the supplements and feeling miserable. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was so stressed out. I was stressed in my job at the time. I was stressed because I was trying to follow all the rules to a T. It's like a, perfectionistic personality. And I was stressed, and that stress was preventing my body from being in a healing state. And my emotional well-being was not very good either. I was not seeing, possibilities. I was just, I was being a victim of my own circumstances. And once I started to learn about the power of your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your stress levels, and how that all impacts your physical well-being, that's when I really started to put things into practice to reprogram that. And that's when I started seeing change. And breath work has been an incredible tool for me, just learning how to breathe. I remember years ago, I went to see we were on vacation in Florida, and drove by this little holistic center. And my husband and I were like, let's go in and see what they do. And we met with this doctor, and I don't even remember what his official title was, but I do remember him telling me, if you just learn to breathe properly, you could heal your body. And I was like, whatever, I haven't done all this stuff just to know that it's all about my breath. Mm-hmm. And fast forward a few years later, and here I am teaching breath work. And I know just the power of the breath is truly healing if you use it appropriately.
I love that. I do. It's just so undertapped too. It's so easy and undertapped. What were some of the changes you started to see when you implemented breathing and more guided practice for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so many things. I mean, this form of breath work allows you to dive into a deep meditative state more than any other type of meditation has allowed before, because I think a lot of us have this busy racing mind, which is fine. But, for me, trying to calm that down, quiet it a little bit was always really difficult. Again, because I think I just had an overstimulated nervous system. Mm-hmm. But using the breath in a rhythmic way, it helps calm the nervous system so you can get into this deep meditative state. And it's in this place where you can begin to reprogram your subconscious mind. You can begin to release imprints that might not be serving you anymore, false beliefs that might not be serving you, and reprogram that with more, accurate affirmative truths about yourself, about the world, about who you are. You can tap into your spirituality, right? You can feel that connection and, just see yourself kind of as the observer of, you and life, knowing that you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're the observer of these. And in that process of calming the nervous system, you can really activate this inner pharmacy that we all have, this ability to self-heal. I saw improvements in my digestion. I saw improvements in just my mental patterns, my thoughts, my emotions, being a little more resilient to stress, not feeling as anxious all the time, and just being able to activate just a more peaceful state. Not to say that, there's no more challenges anymore. It's just the ability to live in those, and be at peace in situations and cultivate strength in that. So it's been, on so many levels, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, just very transformative.
That when you think about Jen, like stress Jen, maybe however many years ago, what were some of the things that were most stressing you out that you now see as hindsight, like in both mental and physiological? So I think a lot of times people neglect the physiological stressors that can be like, the blue lights at night or the constant social
Yeah.
media scrolling or like overtraining. We talk about sedentary lifestyles a lot. Like what were the stressors both mentally, I guess emotionally and physiologically that you're like, whoa, hindsight 2020?
So many. And I feel like over time, like the less resilient I was to stress. So even little things that previously wouldn't stress me out were big stressors. So, I mean, for a long time, food stressed me out because I had this fear of, is this going to make me feel bad? And so food was a big stressor for a long time. And I mean, just, a packed schedule would be a stressor, or, I mean, getting out of my comfort, like when I say comfort zone, I mean, sometimes travel would be a stressor because I'd be like, I don't have all my tools, to keep me like feeling good or keep me safe. It was like this threat of like, or this fear of being uncomfortable or not feeling safe. There were a lot of things that breath work is a great form of trauma release as well. And there were a lot of the healing journey and a lot of this stuff. Well, we don't think of it as like major traumas in your life that we might think of, certain people enduring really, really bad trauma. There's little traumas that build up. And sometimes just, seeing, so many doctors and enduring so many different tests on the body and being told all that uncertainty and that fear can be very traumatic. So the breath work has helped release a lot of that as well like some, subconscious traumas that I had that I didn't even realize. There were things that I think were deeply rooted in just feelings of unworthiness, lack of self-love, forgiveness. Forgiveness was a big one for me. I was harboring so much resentment and blame, towards so many people, including myself. Again, coming back, acknowledging that victim state that I was in of like, why is this happening to me? That sort of thing. Releasing all of that, learning to forgive, like truly forgive and let go and surrender. All of those things have been, it's just like shedding layers of baggage, right? And so I think through all of those are stressors for sure. And they, it's a process. They continue to be released. But then, other things like you mentioned, yes, like blue light. So, I wear the blue light blocking glasses at night. I don't really have so much of food fears anymore. I eat pretty much what I want while keeping it very clean. So nourishing my body with very clean, nutrient dense food so as to not add a stress burden through what I am consuming or what I am drinking. I am very, very careful with how I spend my time in terms of not overscheduling. So because I know I tend to get stressed out if my schedule is just packed completely full and I don't have downtime. I like to start every morning with some form of quiet time, whether that's journaling or meditation or breath work or going on a walk or, reading, saying an affirmative prayer, reading affirmations, something like that, to just get me in a good headspace. And then prioritizing sleep is so, so important for me too. I don't stay up super late. So I do take efforts to minimize the stresses, the potential stressors that are within my control to manage. Right. And then the things that are outside of my control, I try to just let those go, because making those efforts of trying to control your surroundings in every situation, when a lot of it might be outside of your control, that doesn't necessarily serve you. Yeah, it's more stressful. So it's been a learning process and a huge, huge growth process for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that all sounds so amazing. And I'm just like, wow, that's definitely not learned overnight. Talk a little bit about, let's dive into breath work now. And so When I used to hear the word breath work, I would think like meditating
Yeah.
and focusing on your breath. And like, I just don't have time for that. And okay, how could that really help? Like the skeptic in me. And I think for myself, yoga was really helpful, at least like doing something active, like power yoga, but still like calming down from my CrossFit mentality, my go, go, go type A-ness, and to start to learn to focus on breath. And then just gradually, it was like a gateway into like, oh, there's something here. Talk a little bit about like, what does breathwork mean? Like, it's a wild west a little bit to just hear that term. Let's start there.
Yeah. So breath work, of course, has been around for, thousands of years, as long as we could breathe, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's been around forever. And only now is it becoming like this term of breath work. And we have the science behind breath work to support, what ancient traditions knew was true and the power of our breath and using it in certain ways. But I like to think of it as, and I feel that it is a very deep form of meditation. And you can breathe in different ways for different purposes, but consciously controlling how you breathe has an impact and an influence on your autonomic nervous system. And I think to me, breath is a really, really cool function in the body because it's one function that is controlled by our autonomic nervous system, meaning we didn't have to really learn how to breathe. We came into this planet breathing. Most of us don't think about how we're breathing. We just breathe, like our body does it for us. But it's also something that we can tune into. We can consciously control it. And, I think the fact that we weren't taught how to breathe properly, as a child or growing up, as children, we were naturally breathing properly for the most part. But it's when, we start to get older and start to experience stress in all forms that our body takes over and starts breathing in different ways. And so through our breath, we can either activate the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, or you can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. And I feel that in our world today, it's a vicious cycle. Most people are living in chronic stress in some form or another. And that chronic stress, that fight or flight, contributes to a stressful form of breathing, like shallow chest breathing. Maybe you're breathing in and out through your mouth. Maybe you're holding your breath for periods of time and you don't even realize it, but you're activating the fight or flight response. And, that erratic breathing leads to erratic thoughts, which ultimately just perpetuates that chronic stress. And so it becomes this vicious cycle. So when we learn to tune into it and ultimately slow it down and breathe in a rhythm, breathe in through the nose. And in SOMA Breathwork, which is what I teach, we breathe in through the nose and we breathe out through the mouth. On a day-to-day basis, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose is fine too. It's just a lot of times easier to fully release that exhale if you're breathing out through the mouth. But SOMA is really taking fundamental pranayama techniques and putting it into a sequence that combines rhythmic breathing, slow, deep, diaphragmatic rhythmic breathing to beat-driven music, and provides this amazing therapeutic function. It's also inspired by some of the core breathwork techniques of Wim Hof. And it's really, this form of breathwork is designed to be practiced regularly, some of it on a daily basis, and it can lead to improvements in every area of your life. And, you mentioned breathwork being a pretty broad term, and there's a lot of forms of breathwork out there: holotropic breathwork, rebirthing, transformational, Wim Hof, all these different ones, and they all serve their own purpose, but they're all different. And so I have done them all and really had great experiences with all of them. But the one that I landed on, the one that really just made such a huge impact on me the first time I did it, was SOMA. And I knew that this is one that I could practice on a regular basis. Not all of them are intended for daily practice because of the way you're breathing. Some of them activate the stress response, and that can be great for trauma release, but to do that on a regular daily basis may not be the best. So with SOMA, and I'm happy to explain what
please.
SOMA is.
I would love to dive into that.
Okay, perfect. So some of the benefits of SOMA, and then I'll explain kind of how it's broken down. But with SOMA Breathwork, it's a great tool to help reduce stress and anxiety, like we talked about. It's a great tool for improving cardiovascular function, improving levels of stamina and performance, enhancing your creativity, helping you achieve your goals and manifest. And it's also great for cleansing the lymphatic system, reprogramming the subconscious mind, healing the body. The list goes on. And of course, this involves a consistent practice, just like anything. It's not one and done, it's not a magic pill, but you can experience the benefits in just one session. And I know after the first session I did, I just felt amazing afterwards. And I was just like, I want more of this, like I need more of this in my life. And so there's three main phases to SOMA. And so the first phase, and this is what you're doing for most of the breathwork session. And these breathwork sessions, they can range, on a day, if you're doing a daily practice, it could be 10 to 20 minutes. But if you're doing, a full session, like, I teach online breathwork classes, and those range from about, 30 to 45 minutes of actual breathing time. And you can go really, really deep in that period of time. So the first phase is the rhythmic breathing. And that is that slow diaphragmatic breathing that's been shown to reduce stress, not just over the long term, but almost instantly. And it reduces oxidative stress. It increases heart rate variability. It improves symptoms of COPD. It facilitates lymphatic drainage. And it's also been linked to healing IBS. And that list goes on in terms of the benefits. But again, when you slow your breath, you're bringing coherence to your nervous system. You're bringing balance to your nervous system. You're creating heart coherence. You're creating coherence throughout the body and all systems of the body. And you are switching from that predominant survival mode, fight or flight state, and you're spending more time in that parasympathetic rest, relax, and digest. And so depending on the type of class that I'm teaching, we'll either breathe in for 4 counts and out for 4 counts, or we might extend the exhale and perhaps breathe in for 2 and out for 4, or in for 4 and out for 8. And when we double the length of the exhale, we're really focusing on the parasympathetic response, really stimulating that rest, relax, and digest. So that form of breathing where you're extending the exhale is great for improving digestion, of course, reducing stress, anxiety, but also it's great for sleep too. So that's a great one to do at night before bed. But again, we're breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And so that is just, again, creating harmony, creating balance, creating coherence in the body, and really calming the nervous system, which we can all benefit from. Yeah. And then there's two more phases. And these 2 phases both involve breath retention. The first one is intermittent hypoxia. And this is a temporary breath hold. Okay. So this intermittent hypoxia has been used to treat a range of disorders: high blood pressure, diabetes, Parkinson's, emotional disorders, and more. And the yogis thousands of years ago already knew about the benefits of this. They used a breathing technique called Nishesha Rachaka Kumbhaka, which is exactly what intermittent hypoxia is. And it lowers oxygen levels in the body for a brief period of time. And that really helps the body adapt to having less oxygen and becoming more efficient in producing energy. It helps you become more resilient to stressful situations. This is also a time to tap into your subconscious mind, go into a deep meditative state where you can start to reprogram imprints that might be holding you back or not serving you anymore. And there's so many benefits to this piece as well. Everything from anti-aging to improving blood flow to, helping provide relief from a lot of chronic diseases, heart and lung diseases, hypertension, asthma, anxiety and depression, things of that nature. And then the last phase is called the Mula Bandha Lock. And that is where we take a big inhale and we hold our breath on the inhale and we contract our pelvic floor muscles. And so that's like kind of doing a Kegel, or like you're holding in your urine, you're contracting those muscles. And that promotes a rush of blood flow and oxygen to the brain, can have a powerful feeling of energy and excitement. It can help awaken dormant functions of the brain to improve cognitive function and creativity. It's also going to help increase the production of serotonin and dopamine, which are those feel-good neurotransmitters. So those are the 3 phases, and they all serve such a great purpose in the breathwork practice.
Yeah. What would a breathwork practice then look like? Is it something that's like a daily, like part of your morning routine, or is it more like in the moment where you're like feeling pretty stressed that you're like, okay, I can use breath?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So I do a little of both. A lot of mornings I will do some breathing, but I'll do, 5 to 10 minutes of it. And sometimes I'll just do it counting in my head, not with music, but it is a great way to start my morning with the breath. And then, like you said, there's sometimes where I just feel like I need a breathwork session. I'm like, this needs to happen. And so I'll do a longer session with music. And so I may do a breathwork session that's 45 minutes or an hour long with music along with it. And that is a time where I can just go deep. I can go in with an intention. I think having an intention when you go into your breathwork practice, whether it's, forgiveness or cultivating gratitude or healing or cultivating love, whatever it might be that you feel that you need to work on or focus on, having that intention when you go into your breathwork practice is so, so helpful. It is best to practice breathwork when you're not in an overly stressed state, because it's kind of harder to get like as deep as you want to go, like going from high stress all the way down to full release, right? So, but it is helpful. So I tell people, I've worked with clients who come to me, their main issue is anxiety. And this breath work is great for calming anxiety. And so, I'll recommend to them that they just take breaks during their day, and do 5 minutes of breathing. If they're feeling kind of ramped up, if they've been at a computer too long, or they just had a tough phone call, or they just feel stressed, take a 5-minute break, get away from the screen, and just sit and breathe for 5 minutes. And that can, just doing that periodically throughout the day can be incredibly, incredibly helpful and healing. But there's definitely times where where I know myself, I want to go deep. It's more of like a journey, going deep into this breath work and doing 45 minutes or an hour of breathing with an intention. And whether it's I need clarity in a situation, or I'm not in the best headspace and I want to activate gratitude and love, whatever it might be, is really, really helpful. So morning and night are both great times to do breath work based on kind of the state that our brain's in first thing in the morning, and at night when some of those, more alpha waves are a little more dominant, and you can actually get into that meditative state a little easier.
Yeah, I find it too to be a very helpful tool. Like if a lot of times clients will wake up between that 2 to 4 a.m. hour, which is the adrenal witching hour, I call it. And if you are having insomnia, which I think is really common for folks, a good way to calm is to do some breath work.
It is. I love that you said that, because for the most part, I sleep really, really well. But last night I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a hard time getting back to sleep. And that's what I did. I laid in my bed and I did the breath work, and I didn't really count in my head, but, I was doing longer exhales. I was inhaling through my nose and doing longer exhales through my mouth. And I was able to fall back to sleep, because it's just calming your body back down and putting you in a place where you can go to sleep. It's so, so effective.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Jen, where can people find out more about you and your work? And I know you do online classes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is jenbroyles.com, and I do have a free breathwork meditation. If you want to grab that, it's at jenbroyles.com/breathwork. I'm also on social media, Instagram at Jen Broyles Health Coach, and on Facebook. If you just search Jen Broyles, you'll be able to find me.
Well, I'll definitely put links in the show notes. And thanks so much for coming on to talk about this number one nutrient, the power of breath.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Lauren.